Da da, yeah, da. There we go. Hi, da da da, ya da da, ya da da. Hi, da da da, ya da da, ya da. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. We're beginning on page 192 in our Sederim this morning, page 192. Ma tovu, ma tovu, ma tovu, ma tovu, ma tovu.
Shabbat Shalom. Let's try that again. Shabbat Shalom. There we go. Good morning. It's good to see all of your faces here this morning on this beautiful Memorial Day weekend, Shabbat, the day after Shavuot, major holiday in the Jewish calendar. And we're so glad to be with you on this Shabbat. I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing here. First of all, I'm Rabbi Rachel Timoner. This is Cantor Jordan Goldstein. And we are going to be working mostly in this book. You'll know you have the right book if it has like a flame on the cover. There are two books hanging out there in the pews. One of them is not the right book for right now. It will be useful later. This one, it says Mishkan Tefillah, and it's got a flame. And you might have a book that has two sets of page numbers. If you do, you're looking for the number in blue brackets. But if you only have one page number on there, you don't have to worry, and you could find your way. I want to also help you figure out how to work with this book. So we're mostly going to be praying in the Hebrew. It's mostly going to be on the right top page, the right page at the top. if you're somebody who doesn't know how to pray in Hebrew or read the Hebrew, you actually look right across from there. Every single word is spelled out, and you can join us with every word, even if you're totally new to the Hebrew language or don't know how to read it fast enough to sing along like that. You can still follow with the transliteration. And we invite you to do that. We invite you to do that whether you're Jewish or not Jewish. We invite you to join us in any prayers that you feel comfortable joining in. You are totally welcome to do that. If you want to see the meaning of what we're saying, then look right below and you'll see you'll see the English translation of the Hebrew. And let's say you're looking at the English translation and you think to yourself, okay, that's nice, but it's not something I would ever myself say. It doesn't feel like words I would use. It's not something I would express. Well, there are other words here on these pages to help you find your way in. And those are generally on the left page. Those are written by usually contemporary writers, sometimes theologians, just sometimes kind of spiritual people who are writing to try to help you find a connection to what we're doing. And the reason that matters, and the reason I'm taking time at the beginning of the service to tell you about this, is that you might think that you just came to a performance, that we're performers and you're an audience. Kind of looks like that, right? You're sitting over there, we're up at the front, there's a light on us. It looks like that. But I want to tell you there are much better performances in New York. This is not a performance at all. What we're trying to do up here is facilitate an experience that you are going to be part of. So we don't think of this as the thing where you're watching and we're doing. We think of this as a thing that we are doing together. And the reason that matters is because we're trying to do this thing that's this kind of brilliant inheritance we have called Shabbat. And I want to explain it to you. Maybe you totally know what it is, and maybe you don't, so I'm going to explain it to you. So Shabbat is the idea that human beings need a break, that life is stressful. Anybody here feels stressed out at any point this week? Raise your hand. All right? Some of you did not, and that's amazing. I want your life, but many of us experience stress in life. You might have work stress. You might have just inbox email stress. You might have school stress. You might have relationship stress. You might have stress about the world. You might have a device that's constantly telling you that there's more things to pay attention to. And that device, for example, might be on right now, and if it is, it should be off. So go ahead and take it out, turn it off, because we don't want to hear it, and you don't need it. Because we're taking a break. We're taking a break from all those things of our regular world that move fast, that tell you got to do more, that make you have to-do lists and rush and run and try to control things and try to fix things and try to profit from the world and put food on the table. All that stuff that we do all week long. The idea is you need a break. And not just a vacation every few months, but every single week you need a break. And that's what we're doing here. So I invite you to use this space to take a break for yourself. And that might look like praying all these words with us. That might make you feel, if you're singing with us, we know singing is good for the nervous system, it calms the body, it helps you breathe more deeply, it's relaxing, it helps you connect to gratitude. So that could be a great thing to do. But maybe that's not your thing. Maybe you just want to close your eyes. Maybe you want to breathe differently in your body, or just notice where you're holding tension. Maybe you want to connect with what you are grateful for, and that these words aren't good. Maybe these are not your words, and you instead want to use this time to think about, my gosh, my life is stressful, and there's a lot of things that get me down, but it also includes amazing things that I often don't pause to say thank you for. And I'm just going to take this next bit of time, and I'm just going to say thank you for all the things that are good in my life. That would be a great use of this time, because part of what Shabbat is doing is it's saying, if we stop and rest, if we take a break from all the things, what we remember is that most of the time we are living only a fraction of what's possible. Most of the time we're living as if our worth and our value is determined by the work we do in the world, whether that's schoolwork or whether that's work. And actually we are much bigger than that. And there's something magnificent taking place here in this cosmos, on this planet Earth, in this life, which is brief but is right now, in all this web of relationships that could be infused with love. There is something amazing happening, and I'm missing it. So this morning, the idea is, with that break that you're taking, fill it with something else, which is, oh yeah, what's the big picture? And what really matters in my life? That's the invitation. So you could watch us like we're putting on a show. It's not a very good show. I mean, it's, it's fine. But really, you could instead use this time to do something inside of yourself that really could be meaningful. That's what I'm hoping you'll do. That we're hoping you'll do, okay? So, also one more thing. We're going to pray to God. Pretty much every prayer is to God. And maybe you're somebody who's like, yes, I want to pray to God. I'm ready for that. And maybe you're somebody who's like, I'm not sure about that. Okay. So then, when we get to God, the point of that is what I was describing. It's to remind you that you are very small, and it is all very, very big and not that well understood. It is mysterious, this thing that we're in called life. And it invites awe and wonder. And so when we get to the word God, don't get stuck. Just translate it into something that reminds you of awe and wonder. Okay. So we're going to continue now on page 196. This is a prayer about the idea that we have a soul and that it's pure and beautiful. And then we're going to go from there into a list of morning blessings that we pray every morning that are just things that are ordinary, things like waking up, opening your eyes, moving your body, but that we shouldn't take for granted. And they're moments to remind you of gratitude. Okay. 196, Elohai Neshama.
Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehorai. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehorai. Ata berata, ata yitzarta, ata nefachta bi, ve'ata mishamera, mishamra b'kirbi. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehorai. Elohai, 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 Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehorai. Kol zman shenashma b'kirbi moded Adoni lefanecha. Adonai Elohai Elohai Avotai v'imotai. Ribon kamasim Adon kol hamshamot. Baruch atah Adonai. Ashbei Adon nefesh kol chai v'ruach kol b'sar ish. Page 198. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lasim bina lehavchim ben yom uvein laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Zokev kefufim. 200. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who stretches the earth over the waters. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who strengthens our steps. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who clothes the naked. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who gives strength to the weary. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavir shena b'nai utnuma me'afapai. 202. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who made me in the image of God. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, shasani b'nei chori. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, shasani Yisrael. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, ozer Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Yisrael b'tifara.
All right, we turn to page 218, and this is the last of the Psalms, Psalm 150. It's basically all centered around the word hallelujah. Even if you're not going to be able to join with any other Hebrew this morning, you certainly can say hallelujah. And we're going to ask everyone now to play a part in this. So, if you're sitting in these chairs up here, you are going to stand at your seats. If you're in the pews, everybody in the pews, you're going to come right up here. You're going to come close up here. You're going to come on this side. You're going to come on this side. The most important thing is you're going to come out of the center aisle so every person can come toward the front. Everybody in the whole sanctuary is going to come right up to the front as we sing Psalm 150 and get really into the spirit of this morning. Thank you for getting, I don't have a microphone. Thank you. All right, thanks for getting into it. You're not returning to your seats. You're staying here. You're staying here. You're staying here. And if you're still on the central aisle, you're supposed to be up here. Come on. Come on, because what we're doing is we're taking all the energy that we built up and we're making this the friendliest place you've ever been to in Brooklyn. So you got to find someone you don't know, introduce yourself, and wish them a Shabbat Shalom. All right, thank you for being so friendly. Now we're still staying up here, and we need Zane and Elliot, and they are going to receive a special talitot from their families. So Elliot is going to receive hers from her mother, Sandy, and Zane's going to receive his from his uncle, Andy, and Zane's actually going to receive 2 talitot, and I'll explain for a second what is this thing that they're receiving. He's receiving a special talit from his grandfather, and also a special new talit for him. And let me explain what this is. So this is a talit, or a talis. You'll hear people say talis. And it is a prayer shawl, and it can have different fabrics, colors, patterns, doesn't matter. But what does matter, and they all have, is 4 corners have these fringes. And if you look at them carefully, you'll see that they are tied, they are kind of wrapped and knotted in a special way that are meant to be reminders of the Jewish way of life. And so as Elliot and Zane put these on their shoulders today, what they're saying is, yes, this is a culmination of a lot of work. They've worked hard to get here today. They've learned a lot. But this is in no way an ending. This is the beginning of the rest of their lives living as Jewish people. So they're going to come over, they're going to come, both of them, close to this microphone so that they can be heard. They're going to have empty hands so they can take the talit in their hands. They're going to take it from the atara. There you go, from there. That's okay. Hold it in your hands. Hold it, Zane. Zane, you're going to hold it in your hands. Great. And then they're going to say the blessing and put it on their shoulders.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hitatev b'tzitzit.
Amen. And we're going to turn now to page 224, and we're going to face toward Jerusalem for Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה וילמד יברח יותר וימליך מלכותה בחייכנו ומכנו ובחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב וימרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ועמי המאיה Yibarach v'yishtabach v'pa'ar v'romam v'yinaseh v'yadadar yadalev v'yatalal shemei d'kudsha brichu le'ela min kol merchata v'shirata tishmechata v'nechemata damiram be'alma v'yimeru amen Barechu et Adonai hamevorach
not becoming B'nai Mitzvah this morning, you can return to your seats. We're turning to page 229. And this is a prayer in gratitude for light. So as you're walking back to your seats, notice the light coming in through the doorway and join us in this prayer. 229. 228.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Yotzei or uvorei choshech osei shalom uvorei et hakol Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Yotzei or uvorei choshech osei shalom uvorei et hakol.
Please join me in the English on page 229. You are praised, who rolls out the rough, raw clay of the universe into delicate vessels of light. And from nothing at all, we could perceive in a world that has turned old, a shimmering new creation right before our eyes made this moment just for us. How much of life reveals your presence, how much Torah unfolds from each new flower, from each new wave that breaks upon the sea. You are praised, who forms from the clay that cloaks our lives the delicate vessels which contain our light. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMe'orot. On page 230, we come to Ahava Rabbah, and this is a prayer in gratitude for learning, and I'm aware that in some of the Jewish world, today is still Shavuot, but for Reform Jews, Shavuot was ended last night, but Shavuot is a holiday all about learning. And we actually, you might not know this, but the way it's celebrated usually is that on the evening of Shavuot, so that was Thursday night, Jews gather when it gets dark and start studying, learning Torah, learning really anything, but learning. It's a celebration of learning, and we study all night long. Now, I will admit that I went to bed at 2:30, but lots of people were up all night long here. We had, I think, in the many hundreds of people here for much of the night. I mean, in the beginning part of the night, I would say it was like 500-600 people were here. And it's like an all-night study marathon. And there were like 40 workshops and all kinds of learning. And the Jewish people love learning, and this prayer is about that. And part of what that's about for us is recognizing that in order for the world to be redeemed, in order for us to heal this world, we have to understand things a lot better. We do not know yet how to live well on this earth. We don't know how to live on it without destroying it. We don't know how to live on it with each other in a way that makes it just or equitable or that leads to peace. And so learning is going to be essential for the kind of oneness that's coming in the next prayer, which is the Shema, the idea that everything is actually fundamentally one, even though it seems like everything's opposed to each other. And then the next prayer after that, Mechamocha, which is the idea that the world is moving toward redemption. Well, we're part of that. And in order to get there, we've got to grow in wisdom. So that's what this prayer is about.
הבוחר במו ישראל באהבה. 232. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. 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 Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha. 234. V'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמן.
Page 240. Rise.
Israel, kuma be'ezrat Israel, ufneichenu mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael. Bo aleinu, Adonai tzvaot shemo, Kedosh
All right, on page 242, we come to the tefillah, the Amidah. This is the central set of standing prayers of our service. And in the first major prayer, which we'll come to in a moment on page 244, we describe ourselves as the descendants of Abraham and Sarah and those who followed them. And so we're thinking about ourselves in this set of prayers as belonging to a chain of generations through time, as descendants of ancestors. Now, no matter who your ancestors were, this is a moment to think about where you come from. Think about the people who lived before you, who made you you, who lived according to their values and tried to pass down what was most important to them, and maybe also tried to make the world a better place. And we here now in this moment are making these prayers, trying to do the same thing. And then we're not just the descendants of ancestors, but we're also the ancestors of descendants. These prayers have been prayed for hundreds of years, and we hope they're going to be prayed for hundreds more. And we imagine now, who's coming after us? And what are we doing in our own time to make the world more how it should be for them? What are we doing to pass down our values, whether to biological descendants or anyone we influence in future generations, this next generation and those who follow? How are we living our lives now to make more of these values present in the world so that our descendants are able to pray these same prayers in a very different and hopefully much better environment that they're then going to pass on to their children and grandchildren and the descendants who follow them? So see yourself in terms of who you come from and who you're passing down your values to and how you're living in this moment between past and future. We begin by asking for help finding words to pray on 242.
Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mivigula Lifnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Mashiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Be'ezrat Sarah, 246. Atagi Bor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh Kol Atarav Lehoshia, Morid Atah, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh Kol Merachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Baal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, page 248. K'shem shemagdishim oto b'shmei marom, k'katuv al yad neviecha, v'kara ze el ze ve'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Meloch ha'aretz kevodo.
We continue now with silent prayer from page 250 to page 260, and we know that our prayer is not complete unless it also includes something that's coming from within us. So take your time and do something real, and when you're finished, you can be seated.
page 260. יהיו לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי וגואלי אדוני צורי וגואלי. May the words of my mouth, and the meditation of my heart, be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. You leratzon imrefi vehegion libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri vegoali Adonai tzuri vegoali.
In a moment, we are going to have Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for the reading of Torah. But first, we have some greetings from Joanna Pressman, who is the secretary of our Board of Trustees, on behalf of our board. And here they are.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
Let me start by thanking our clergy, Rabbi Rachel Timoner and Cantor Jordan Goldstein for leading us today, as well as our staff members, Karen Gerwin supporting us here in person, and Gabi Savransky providing audio and online support. Let me also say Mazal Tov to Elliot Foster and Zane Brenner on your B'nai Mitzvah, and thank you to Sandra Scher and Karen Brenner for sponsoring Kiddush in honor of Elliot and Zane's B'nai Mitzvah. Kiddush will take place on the side of the sanctuary after the conclusion of the service. Just a quick note to traveling guests of the Brenner family, please be sure to take a lunch bag from the back on your way out. And I will also mention that we have our annual meeting of the members of Congregation Beth Elohim coming up on June 6th. An email went out to the congregation with notice of the meeting. The time, place is on Zoom, as well as the slate of directors and officers proposed for nomination and the full agenda of the meeting. So if you're a member, please check your email for that information. Thank you all for being here, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
All right. So we're going to need some help for the Torah service. We need several people to come help us open the Ark, and they are going to be Zane's cousins, Ellen and Alex Helfand, Scott and Claudia Finkel, Ben Helfand and Maxine Joslow, and Elliot's sister and cousins, Ruby Foster, Isaac Broderius, and Ilana Broderius. And then when Elliot and Zane have the Torahs in their arms and they're ready to do the hakafah, which means they're going to walk around the sanctuary carrying them, we're going to have several people follow them. Zane's cousins are going to follow him, Remy and Jackson Brenner, Eden and Julian Brenner, Jaden, Casey, and Noah Finkel. And Elliot's cousins and aunts are going to follow her, Isaac Broderius, Ilana Broderius, Debbie Neal, Kate Posey, and Deanna Scher. And everyone else, we're turning to page 362. Please rise. And I need Zane and Elliot too.
Kamocha v'Elohim Adonai le'ein k'ma'asecha malchutecha malchut kol amim u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor.
If I read your name as a person opening the Ark, this is your moment.
Go right right up there. Take your moment. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimlach leolam va'ed. Adonai oz lemo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachami hitiva v'tzonecha et Zion tivne chomot Yerushalayim tivne chomot Yerushalayim ki v'cha levad batachnu Melech El Ram Venisa Adon Olamim Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah Udevar Adonai Mirushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Adonai Unaroma Mash.
Shemo Yachda.
Lecha Adonai Hagedula Ve'Hagivura Ve'Tiferet Ve'Hanetzach Ve'Hahod Kicho Bashamayim U'Ba'aretz Kicho Bashamayim U'Ba'aretz Lecha Adonai Hamamacha Ve'Mitnaseh Lechol Rosh Romemu 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 Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu Adom Raglav Kadoshu Romemu 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 Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu Le'har Kodesho Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Al Shlosha Devarim Al Shlosha Devarim Al Shlosha Devarim Ha'olam Ha'olam Omer Al Shlosha Devarim Al Shlosha Devarim Al Shlosha Devarim Ha'olam Ha'olam Omer Al HaTorah Ve'al Halavoda Ve'al Gemilut Chasadim Al HaTorah Ve'al Halavoda Ve'al Gemilut Chasadim Ve'al Gemilut Chasadim.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
All right. Remember at the beginning I told you there were two books there? You want the different book now, the one that says the Torah. And we are going to be reading from the book of Numbers, chapter 4, starting at verse 38. So if you are following along, you're going to be turning to page 924 in your Torah commentaries. This is Parshat Naso. It is the second Torah portion in the book of Numbers, in which the people are in the wilderness. They're going to be wandering for 40 years, as you might know. And we're going to be chanting a variety of sections of Torah, and each section is called an aliyah, and for each aliyah, we'll be inviting different members of Zane's and Elliot's family to come up to say the blessing before and after that passage is chanted. Our first Torah chanter is Serena Elbogen-Siegel, who has helped, I don't know, both of them or one of them? Both of them prepare for this day as their tutors. So Serena's going to chant Torah first, and we're going to invite Zane's cousins for this first aliyah, Adam and Danielle Brenner, Evan Brenner, and Taylor Brenner. Please come on up.
All right.
Everybody come close. You ready? 1, 2, 3.
What is it? That's what we're doing? Okay, you go.
Baruch atah. No.
What's up, Brooklyn?
No, sorry.
I'll do it with you.
Okay, go ahead.
It's Adonai, Hamra.
Baruch atah.
Baruch Adonai,
Olam Ba'ed. Baruch Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher karanu k'tomanu. V'natan lananu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, notei haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Upekudei b'nei Gershon lemishpechotam uleveit avotam miben 30 shana v'mala ve'ad ben 50 shana kol haba latzava la'avoda be'ohel moed v'yihi Yufekudehem lemishpechotam leveit avotam alpayim v'sheish meot u'shloshim shana. Ele fekudei mishpechot b'nei Gershon kol ha'oved be'ohel moed asher pakad Moshe Be'aharon al pi Adonai.
Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher tanan lanu Torah v'shohei elam natan batafut. Baruch atah Adonai, nateinu haTorah.
Amen. All right, now we're going to invite Zane up to chant Torah, and we're going to invite his mother and uncle to come for this next aliyah, Karen Brenner and Andy Brenner.
All right.
You're coming up for the aliyah, yep.
Right there. You see it? You got it. So we got
Baruch Adonai,
Baruch Adonai, Hamvarach Le'olam Ba'ed.
Baruch
Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher b'achanu mikol hanim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Ufakudei mishpechot b'nei Merari lemishpatam leveit avotam miben 30 shenach v'mala ve'ad ben 50 shenach kol haba latzava la'avoda be'ochel moed v'yihiyu fekudehem lemishpatam 3,200 Ele fekudei mishpechot b'nei Merari asher pakad Moshe v'acharon al pi Adonai be'ad Moshe.
Let's go. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech olam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam notah b'chayenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Shekoach. Now going to invite Zane to make the aliyah as he becomes a bar mitzvah.
Ya amor, ma bar mitzvah, zali kaled ben kaliyah l'aliyah l'Torah, chazak ve'amatz.
Baruch et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach l'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amin, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Kol ha'pekodim asher pakad Moshe ve'acheron unsiei Yisrael et haLevim lemishvotam leveit avotam miben shoshim shenach v'mala ve'ad ben hamishim shenach kol haba lavod avodah v'avodat masa ve'ochel moed Vayihiyu fekudehem shmonat alafim umatain. Al pi Adonai pakad otam be'ad Moshe ish alavrato ve'al maso ufakuda shetziva Adonai et Moshe.
Shekoach. Blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yeshakoach.
Shkoyach.
So when someone does something wonderful in a synagogue, what we do is we say Yeshakoach. Beautiful. All right. We take a pause with the Torah in our midst. And we think about those people we know who are in need of healing. Because the Torah for our people for so many generations has been a source of strength and a source of light. So we think about people we know who are reaching for strength and reaching for light. And we're going to pray Misha Berach, which is back in your prayer book, not the Torah commentary, but your prayer book on page 371. And we're going to sing the first part together, and then we'll pause in the middle. And if you are thinking of someone who needs healing, I'm going to invite you to say that person's name out loud, and then we'll pray the second part of the prayer together.
Page 371. Mishe berach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
We pray for the people we name now. We pray together.
Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We return to chanting Torah now, and Cantor Goldstein will chant this next Aliyah. We're going to invite Elliot's grandparents forward, Mark and Amy Scher. And we're now on chapter 5, verse 23. Skip ahead a little bit.
Ready? Baruch Hu Adonai Hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamparach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamparach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. V'chatav et ha'alot ha'ele ha'kohen b'sefer u'machal el mei hamarim. V'hiska el ha'isha et mei hamarim ham'arerim uva hamayim ham'arerim nemarim. V'lakach ha'kohen miyad ha'isha et hamincha hiknaot v'heniv et hamincha lifnei Adonai v'hikriv ota el hamizbeach.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayim natan b'kochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
All right, we're now going to invite Elliot to come forward and chant Torah. And Elliot's sister and aunt are going to come for this next Aliyah, Ruby Foster and Deanna Scher.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'kamatz hakohen mincha et askarata v'hiktir hamizvecha v'yachar yashkei el ha'isha et hamayim v'ishka oh my god v'ishka et hamayim v'chayta im nitme'a v'altim oma be'isha uva hamayim ha'me'aririm l'marim v'tzavta v'itna v'nefla yerecha v'chayta ha'isha le'alad b'kerev ama ve'im lo nitme'a ha'isha o tehora hi v'nikta v'nizra hazara.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata betocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
And now Elliot will be called as a bat mitzvah. You stay here, stay here, stay here, stay here. Ruby, stay here, stay here. Now Elliot will be called as a bat mitzvah.
Tamo, 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 baba mitzvah, orli batzimo v'shifarei, li'ali ala Torah, chazak ve'amat.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Zot haTorah haknaot asher tistei isha taha isha v'nitma'a. O ish asher ta'avor alav ru'akin'a v'kinei et ishto v'ha'emid et ha'isha lifnei Adonai ve'asala hakohen et kol haTorah hazot v'nekah ha'ish me'avon ve'ha'isa ha'i tisa et avona. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata betocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yasher koach.
Shkoyach.
All right, we are ready to lift and dress our Torah. We invite Fred LaPala to come forward to lift the Torah, and for dressing the Torah, we invite Andy Freed, Emma Freed, Nick Gaetano, Phyllis Finkel, Alan and Beth Brenner, Simon Foster, and Alan Broderius. I need to warn you all, there are not that many jobs, but come on up, and you'll all be part of it in some way. We all please rise.
V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. May be seated.
All right. I think I'm hearing the crinkling. Yes. Okay, so here's what happens on Shabbat morning. First, we hear the Torah. This is our original sacred text. And then we hear the voices of our prophets. And after Elliot and Zane chant from the prophets, and they're going to be chanting specifically from the book of Judges, we're going to then shower them gently with sweetness. And just in case there's any confusion about what a gentle shower looks like, the shape is not this. The shape is this. You got it? You got it? Okay. So they're gonna chant the blessing before Haftarah. Then they're gonna chant from the Book of Judges, and they're gonna chant the blessing after. If you're following along in the Torah commentary, you're looking at page 947. This is Judges chapter 13. They're going to be chanting from verses 2 to 8, and then they'll chant the closing blessing. After the closing blessing, you'll have an opportunity to shower them with sweetness, and then if you would like to eat some of that sweetness, you can do that. All right, we need Elliot and we need Zane.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'mim tovim v'ratza v'divrayim hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah u'Moshe abdo u'Yisrael amo u'Nbiei hamet v'tzedek.
Vayehi ish echad mitzarah b'mishpachat Adoni u'shemo Manoach v'ishto akara v'lo yaladet. Vayera mithla Adonai el ha'isha vayomer elecha hinena takara v'lo yaladet v'harid v'yaladet ben v'yata hisha hamrina v'yal tishti yain v'shechar v'yal tatli kol tamein Ki hina ha'ara ve'lade bein umora lo ya'aleh arsho ki nazir Elohim ehiyeh hanar min habaten vehu yahel le'yashat Yisrael miyad hilishtim.
Vatavo haisha, vatomer leisha, lemor ish Elohim ba'ilai, umarechu kemarech, melach Elohim nora me'od, velo shalotichu emizechu, vet shamo lo higili. Vayomer li henacharach ve'oladet bein vayata al tishti yayin v'shachar ve'otochli kol tuma ki nazir Elohim yachiyeh henar min habeten ad yomoto. Vayatar Manoach el Adonai v'amar bi Adonai ish Elohim asher shalachta yavonod aleinu ve'oreinu manaseh lenar hayulad.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Sor kol halomim, Sadiq b'chol hadorot, Hayal haneman, Haomer roseh, Hamdaber u'mkayem, Shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Al hatarat ve'al havadah ve'al hanve'im ve'al yom haShabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu L'kdusha v'limnucha, lahavod u'tifaret. Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, u'mvarchim otach, yitbarach shemcha b'fi kol hai, tamid le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, makadesh HaShabbat.
Simin tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simin tov, simin tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simin tov, simin tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simin tov. Elanu. Simin tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simin tov, simin tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simin tov, simin tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simin tov.
What we do on Shabbat morning, as I said, is we hear Torah, then we hear the prophets. And you may have noticed that the story in the prophets was about the birth of Samson, who is the most famous of the Nazarites, which is something that Elliot's going to be talking about in a bit, the whole idea of the Nazarites. And one of the fun games on Shabbat is to figure out, why did the ancient rabbis choose this particular passage from prophets to match with this particular part of Torah? And that seems to be why for this Shabbat. But then what happens is, what we're watching is Torah move through time. We start with the original text, and then we watch it move through time. And it comes up to today. And we depend on our darshanim, is what they're called, the people who are going to interpret Torah, to help us see how this ancient text connects to us. And so Zane is going to be first, and then Elliot, and then I'm going to respond to them. And here today, they become our teachers. Up until now, they've been our students, but today they become teachers of Torah. And so we are all ears. Zane.
This week we're going to learn about Parshat Naso in the book of Numbers. In the beginning of my Torah portion, Moses is taking a census. In other words, he is counting how many people are in each tribe of the Israelites. In addition to counting people, Moses is describing jobs for the clans of the Levites. For example, the Gershonites, who were one of the clan's Levites, had to carry around the cloths of the tabernacle, which was the place where the Israelites gathered to worship God. This means that they're on the move a lot, and they had a portable sanctuary. And when it was time to move, the Gershonites had to pack up the tent and carry it. Another clan, the Merarites, were responsible for carrying all of the planks and poles of the tabernacle. My question was, why couldn't the Levites have any job they wanted? Why couldn't they be whatever they wanted to be, instead of having to do the job they got because of their family? In order to answer my question, I first had to research who the Levites were. People think the tribes were named after each one of Jacob's sons, and so the traditional idea is that the Levites were named after one of Jacob's sons, Levi. However, unlike other tribes who had all their own land, where they could grow crops and raise animals, the Levites didn't have their own land, and instead their job was to take care of the sanctuary. This is unusual because all of the other tribes had land, so Jewish scholars asked, why didn't they? Professor Mark Leuchter wrote an article called Who Were the Levites? He talks about two theories of who the Levites really were, since it didn't make sense that they were the only tribe that doesn't have land. The first theory is that during economically difficult times, when the Israelites didn't have enough food for everyone in their family, they would give up at least one son for adoption by the sanctuary. And this reassured them that their kid would get food and have security, while making sure their family's resources was enough to go around. The archaeological evidence shows that economic hardship happened so often that this practice became normal. And eventually, even if they had enough food for every family, they would still put up one son for adoption. That means that the Levites were not a tribe, but one member of every family. The second theory is that the Levites originally came from Egypt, and they weren't Israelites. They just joined the Israelites in Israel after the other tribes were already settled there. That's why they had no land, and because they had no land, they took on the special role of working at the sanctuary. Evidence that proves this theory is that all the most important Levites had Egyptian names, including Moses, Aaron, Miriam, Pinchas, Kehat, and Merari. According to this theory, once the Levites began to serve in the sanctuary, they introduced their own story, the story of Exodus from Egypt, and it became the most important story of the Israelites. Some people think they were even the ones to introduce Yod-Heh, Vav-Heh, or Adonai as God. I like the second theory the best, but what I learned from all of this is that nobody could do whatever job they wanted. The other tribes had to work on the land, raising animals and crops, and the Levites had to work on taking care of the sanctuary. For them, it didn't matter what job you got as long as you could live. Most of us expect that we're going to be able to choose what jobs we want to do and expect things to come to us. We expect to have choices and for things to be easy. But for a lot of people in the time of the Torah, everybody had to do whatever they could to survive. This means that don't take things for granted. Be grateful for all the choices and opportunities you have, and especially be grateful for the people you love. Shabbat Shalom.
Yesher Koach. And now Elliot.
Shabbat Shalom. In this week's Torah portion, Naso, there's a lot of things that may not align with certain points of views that we currently have in the 21st century. But I think it's important to take those things and learn from them, even if the lessons in the Torah portion aren't always the best lessons for us in modern times. As I've learned, even if it seems old-fashioned or backwards on the surface, there may be more that meets the eye. This is something that I found deeply concerning in Naso towards the beginning of the Parsha. In Numbers 5, verses 9 through 18, we read, "The Eternal One says, if any wife has gone astray and broken faith with her husband, the husband shall bring his wife to the priest." Then it goes on to describe this detailed ritual for such a woman who has cheated on her husband. The husband must bring to the priest barley flour as a meal offering of jealousy. The priest then takes the sacred water and mixes it up with some of the earth on the floor of the tabernacle. The priest then says that if you drink the water of bitterness and have not committed adultery, then you will be fine. But if you have, your belly will distend and your thigh will sag, kind of like aging quickly all at once. Ultimately, the priest will make the wife drink the water. But if the wife hasn't committed adultery, if she has, she will become a curse to her people. But if she hasn't, then she'll be able to get pregnant. This passage makes no sense in modern times. There's no way that any of this could even happen. It's pretty anti-feminist to include these rules in the Torah. It's hard to make any sense of this for a modern audience. And then, after talking about this punishment ritual for a woman who may have cheated on her husband, the Torah then talks about another category of people that is hard for us to understand today as well. The Nazarite's vow is a vow you can take where you never consume any alcohol or even anything to do with wine like vinegar or grapes or other grape products. Also, as part of the vow, you would never let your hair grow and never cut it. And another restriction is that you can't go near a dead person. I can't find any reason why someone would want to do that in the first place, but whatever. The whole point of taking on this Nazarite's vow is to be Kadosh Adonai, extra holy to God. I wondered why these two categories of people came one after the other in the Torah portion. What might be the connection between a woman suspected of adultery and a person who takes on the Nazarite's vow? The connection between these two categories has been interpreted in many different ways. Rabbi Louis Sparth presents a whole new opinion that I've never heard before. He describes how the Nazir Sota, the woman who has gone astray from her husband, and the Kohen are all the no people, yet can be related as friends, acquaintances, or just being in a community together. The Sota was a mystery. No one knew if she's committed adultery or not, and if she did, it's hard to know why, because it's clearly a sin according to the Torah. Yet, the Nazir wanted to be more spiritually connected with their Judaism, so much that they would give up alcohol or grapes or anything that had to do with grapes to be extra holy. They are both models, but for opposing things. The Sota shows dishonor, yet the Nazir shows a want to be more holy. A 19th century rabbi known for his Torah commentary called Mei Shaloach gives us an interesting teaching about this. He points out that the Sota comes before the Nazir in the Torah portion. The Meshaloach talks about how the Sota represents the mistake a person has made, the Nazir represents the correction one has made. And one connection between the two is that if a person has made a mistake, they can correct it. In his words, a person can only uphold the teachings of the Torah when he has stumbled in them. Someone can only show that they've learned the lessons of the Torah if they've actually had experiences in which they can use as wisdom. This means that a person is better off have made a mistake and then correcting it than if they simply never made a mistake at all. The Meshaloach then goes on to say that the order of the Sota and the Nazir is in reverse in the Talmud. He explains this to mean that the goal of the rabbis who put the Nazir before the Sota in the Talmud is to give us rules to not stumble from the start. This is a nice idea, but people tend to mess up, even if they have rules. The great Rabbi Maimonides also taught us that it's better to make mistakes and learn from them than to not make mistakes at all. The reason why it's so important to learn from your mistakes is simple. If you keep on doing the same thing over and over again, you'll make no progress. Also, if there's an error in what you are doing, you'll never overcome it. When you're working on a project or even just doing something you've never done before, understanding that you can't always get it right is the first step into getting it right. For example, think about all the trial and error that happened just for the simple things, like making paper, pencils, or just evolving and creating better things. If nobody ever learned from their mistakes, everyone would just try once at everything and never get farther in life. Also, if you were perfect from the beginning and never made any mistakes at all, this would also present a problem. If you never struggled, it would be harder to empathize with people who have. You would never learn anything from life. Especially after reading the words of these famous rabbis, I think that this is a lesson we've learned from having the Sota and the Nazir side by side in the Torah. I believe that the Torah is trying to teach us something indirectly, that we need to make mistakes and learn from them to be truly perfect and to be more human. Even though the Torah is an ancient book of rules, it doesn't seem to assume that we'll always follow the rules all the time. The Torah understands our imperfections as human beings, and by reading between the lines, we can sometimes find lessons that are even more powerful than we otherwise thought. Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher Koach, Elliot, and Yasher Koach, Zane. You both gave us really fascinating Divrei Torah today. Zane, you taught us theories about the origins of the Levites, scholarly theories, that they were actually Egyptians, that they were actually the sons that the Israelite families couldn't afford to feed. These are theories I think probably most of us have never heard before. And Elliot, you also brought a teaching that I bet most people here have never heard before, a theory about the juxtaposition of the Sota and the Nazir, the ritual that's addressing women's potential infidelity and the ritual that's about giving people a way to return or get close to God. And in doing so, both of you put a spotlight on how very different life was back in the time of the Torah. But you also made the point, Elliot, that it was both different and not so different. We don't have people abstaining from the barber or the grapevine as a way to get close to God anymore, but we do still all make mistakes and strive to recover and learn from them. And we do still need to figure out how to feed our families. And there's a lot to be grateful for and not take for granted, as you taught us, Zane. And I would argue that some things in Torah are more similar to our lives and our world now than we like to think. The Sota ritual seems to be about women's infidelity from their husbands, but it may have actually been about men's jealousy. First of all, notice that there is no punishing ritual for adultery by men, even though it's one of the 10 commandments, and it's a commandment that carries the death sentence. As humiliating and misogynistic as the Sota ritual is, even when found guilty, a woman is not put to death. So is it actually about infidelity? Our Parsha is very clear that this ritual is specifically for cases where there is no evidence of wrongdoing, where there is no witness, and where the husband has no proof. Verse 14 states that this ritual takes place when, quote, a fit of jealousy comes over him, and he is wrought up about the wife who has defiled herself, meaning cheated on him. Or, the verse continues, if a fit of jealousy comes over him and he is wrought up about his wife, although she has not defiled herself, i.e., not cheated on him. Her infidelity is not required for the ritual to take place. his jealousy is. And if you noticed, the thing he does is he brings a meal offering, and it's called an offering of jealousy. The ritual only takes place if he is in a, quote, fit of jealousy. In The Image of God, a feminist commentary on the Torah, Judith Antonelli writes that, quote, the law of Sota was not so much designed to punish unfaithful wives, although it did. It was primarily to protect innocent women from possessive, abusive husbands who were consumed by irrational fits of jealousy, creating a format for channeling the man's rage and deflecting it from his wife. Today, we still have a big double standard about marital infidelity. Women who commit adultery are often judged much more harshly than men who do. Some people and some cultures even treat infidelity by men as normal or expected. No big deal. But men's jealousy about women's potential or imagined infidelity continues to be a serious global problem. Studies from countries as diverse as Brazil, China, Ecuador, Tanzania, and the United States show that men's jealousy in romantic and sexual relations is a primary cause of intimate partner violence all around the world, even sometimes leading to women's deaths. If it's true that the Sota ritual was a way for the whole society to manage men's jealousy and prevent violence against women, it may have proved effective. Nonetheless, the problem when a society accommodates the more powerful group's unaddressed mental health needs, even if the motive is to protect the less powerful group, is that it enshrines and reinforces inequality. Even if individual women's lives were saved and violence against women was prevented, the Jewish people's entire culture was shaped through Torah to think of women's adultery as a collective problem to solve, whereas men's adultery was met with collective silence and inaction. And men's quote-unquote fits of jealousy, rather than being addressed as a mental health problem, were permitted and even encouraged by the existence of the ritual. One of the most important advances of our time, I think, in addition to dramatically greater consciousness of gender equality, is attention to mental health with an emphasis on the nervous system and on emotional self-regulation. As a society, we are dramatically underfunding mental health care, but that's been true forever. But we're also becoming much more aware of the regulation and dysregulation of our nervous systems, and much more knowledgeable about and even skilled at how to work with difficult emotions without acting them out on others. We all have strong emotions sometimes. We will all feel jealous in our lifetimes, as well as angry and sad and afraid. And there will be times when those feelings knock us off balance, make us lose touch with our rational minds, and flood us with uncomfortable and even painful sensations. Out of our discomfort, we may seek relief by using words or actions against other people. The goal, however, is to stay with those feelings, even when they hurt, and even when we're uncomfortable. And if we do that, even the strongest and most difficult feelings will pass and leave our bodies. And if we can make it through those quote-unquote fits without hurting anyone, either by word or by deed, we will have prevented harm. Our society is developing understanding and language, therapies, and even videos on social media about how to do this. It seems that we're at a real threshold of growth. And it seems possible that our generations might do so much better at handling our emotions than the generations that came before us. If we could do that, it would lead to significant improvement upon our behavior. And since hurt people, the more we heal, the more we each manage our own emotions, the more we learn to regulate and re-regulate our own nervous systems, the more healing we will bring to the world. But we're not supposed to be perfect. As you taught us, Elliot, the Torah understood that humans make mistakes. And Judaism gives us ways to reflect on our mistakes, to learn from them, and to come back from our mistakes. Even saying that making a mistake and learning from it is better than never making a mistake at all. So the next time you feel a fit of jealousy or anger or fear or grief come over you, remember, that's just what it is to be human. To the best of our ability, let's feel it without acting on it. And if we make the mistake of acting on it in the moment, let's try to learn as much as we can from that experience. And then, if we do harm, let's apologize and make it right. And the next time we have strong feelings, let's see them as an opportunity to make the cycle stop with us. Shabbat Shalom. It's now time to return the Torah to the Ark, and I want both Zane and Elliot to come with me so I can give them a special blessing when we get there. Please rise.
Page 374. כי לקח טוב נתתי לכם תורתי אל תעזובו עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה We continue on page 586. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 589. Meira betifer Shemo Echad. You may be seated.
We always conclude our time by entering the realm of memory, by pulling close the people we love who are no longer with us. And on this particular Shabbat, because of the simcha in their lives, Zane's and Elliot's families are remembering their loved ones. Zane's family is remembering Zeke and Betty Brenner, Irving and Marion Freed, and Laura and Mike Michelson. And Elliot's family are remembering Judy Wilson, Brian and Barbara Foster. If you are in a period of mourning this Shabbat, if this is Shiva for you, the first week since the death of a loved one, I invite you to rise and tell us who you're remembering. And if this is Shloshim, if you're in the first 30 days since the loss of a loved one, I invite you to rise and tell us who you're remembering. And if this is the first year since the death of a loved one, and if you're in Shana, I invite you to rise and tell us who you're remembering. And if this is a yard site for you, the anniversary of a death, I invite you to rise and tell us who you're remembering. We all rise in company with the mourners in our midst. So we remember these recent losses in our congregational community. Sidney Levine, father of Ian Levine, father-in-law of Tamar Renault, and grandfather of Maya and Liam. Lori Reichman, grandmother of Emma Thaler Scott and Dexter Scott, and great-grandmother of Murphy and Simon. Diana Levitt, mother of Julie Marks. Juliette Diller, mother of Matthew Diller, mother-in-law of Kit Kennedy, and grandmother of Michael and Peter. And these yard sites, Cora Aarons, Robert Aaron, Herschel Borchoff, Alvin Brensilver, Lily Brooks, Joe Clayton, Morris Cohen, Edmund David, Daniel Dobro, Faye Dobro-Kaufman, Jennifer Dougal, Andrea Epstein, Lenore Feinberg, Dina Fogel, Grace George Barr, Ken Gershin, Alan Goldner, Gerald Golliber, Leonard Gonchar, Ruth Green, Jack Grinthal, Esther Hare, Ada Davis-Hess, Marissa Hill, Tony Horowitz, Betty Jane Ison, Lazar Iskovich, Sidney Jaffe, Moses Katz, Jerome Kaufman, Martin King, Abraham Coppell, Seymour Lansner, Max Levine, Rabbi Joseph Leaf, Saul London, Andrew Lotman, Louis Mallon, Harry Mandelbaum, Lester Mason, Kathy Maddie, Frederick May, Anthony Peters, Dora Rabinowitz, Esther Rogak, Gertrude Liebson Rosen, Naomi Roth, James Allen Runsdorf, Minna Sacker, Mary Shine, Bernard Shine, Sylvia Schaefer, Ilya Earlia Schleikov, B. Maurice Schur, Esther Spiro Hare, Henry Teitelbaum, Dorothy Waxman, Francis Weiss, Samuel Weisstein, Esther Wexler. Holding them all together, we say, Zichronam Livracha. May their memories be an everlasting blessing. As we turn to the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra chirute ve'amlich malchute. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael. Bagalau v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the maker of peace make peace for all who mourn. And we say together, Amen.
Oh, Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imu. Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imu.
Mazel tov to Elliot and Zane and your family and friends. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Kiddush is right over here. Shabbat shalom.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat v'dorotam berit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat v'dorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat v'dorotam berit olam. Ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz. Ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. על כן ברך את יום אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו. Savri, we lift our Kiddush cups in the air and we sing, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen, v'chaim. And last but certainly not least, we grab our chalot, our challah, and we sing, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Thank you.